patience, so welcome. Yeah, we had quite a few people log on, so.
Oh, I'm sorry if they've all left.
No, they'll come on, they'll come in and join. Well, that's okay. We'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we can start. How have you been? How are you otherwise, apart from the text side of things?
Fine, fine.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
that's
thank
good.
you for being so patient, you guys.
Well, yeah. So
hey, Yasmin.
Yeah, we have. Please feel free to use the chat. And yes, really good to see people around. I think I saw Karen. I saw Karen Gallagher. I saw, Birunji, I think is there as well. Artistry, is that Kamara? Yes, nice to see you. Fumi, yes, of course. Thank you for the back, kind of suggesting the backup plan. Who else? Inez, I think, was around as well. So
okay.
Yeah. Well, yes, the joys of cyberspace. We have to be quick and nimble. Yeah, to get things going. So we will start in a minute, if you're ready. So we'll kind of just carry on, and then if people are able to join, I know that I think Amanda Demerara was there as well. People got the well, whoever comes into the link bio, they will see the registration details for Zoom. So we can go ahead and start, I think. Are you happy to start?
Yes,
It's
definitely.
Beverley. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm gonna just welcome everybody. Just bear with me a second. Okay, so yeah, we'll start in a minute. I think that's okay. If people come in, we'll just have to they'll just have to join as we continue talking. Right, welcome everyone. And I'm really pleased to that you can join us even after this cyber kind of space issue. We have managed to come on, and so here we are. So it's not Instagram Live anymore, so it's a Zoom Live, and it's part of our Meet the Tribe series, which we do to shine a spotlight on one of our own. So Beverley is one of our own in the Creative Digital Hub, the Karma family. And for those who are new and who've just joined in this platform, Karma Arts we're all about connecting communities, raising profiles, and creating space for meaningful and creative exchange towards positive change. So we are international, we're intergenerational, and interculture too, and we work across art forms. So dance, film, and festivals, and all of that, art and everything. So if you haven't already joined us, please join. It's free. So if you can go on to www.kalmaarts.com, you can join in free. So I've done my plug. Now it's all about the special person that we have today. And she's special because she's an individual who's really influenced the dance sector. And she's been in this sector for a long time. She's an enabler, she's a mentor, she's an educator. A lot of you have, a lot of you know her, and she's a leader really, and really specifically in dance of the African diaspora, or if you want African people's dance, or and the Caribbean dance as well. I will not say much, but she's recently been awarded the Queen's Birthday Honors MBE. So she's Beverley Glean MBE, and she's a recipient of the DAD Dance of the African Diaspora Lifetime Achievement Award, which was awarded by One Dance UK. So please welcome Beverley Glean. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Hi, everybody.
Yeah. So how has your experience been? You have been on the Instagram Live takeover. Instagram takeover for the whole week. So how has your experience been for that?
Well, it's been a fabulous experience. Actually, to tell you the truth, I am dreadful at kind of looking at myself or reading about myself. And what I've done, I mean, we have this amazing social media person called Ines. I think she's here somewhere. Hi, Ines. And she has really kind of walked and mapped me through this whole process. Obviously, there's kind of content there that kind of exclusively IRIE's, but she has really managed to kind of shape the process for me. She should have been here with me with me today. We probably would have got on Instagram Live. But from what I've seen, I think it's been a really good process, actually, because what it's allowed IRIE to do in that the space of a week is to really kind of give a snapshot of all of the work that we do. All of the work that we do currently.
Yeah, we have definitely seen it, actually, because we've been enjoying reading about the history of it as well. Because I didn't even know about the fires, the New Cross fires, and the person who set it up. So it was very informative. If you haven't seen it, if you can go onto Instagram and read the backstory, it will be there still. But I think it will be quite interesting to kind of give us a little snippet. But one of the things that I really want us to dig deep into, to delve deeper into, is really who Beverley is in a few words. Who is Beverley behind IRIE Dance Theatre?
Oh gosh. Who is Beverley behind IRIE Dance Theatre? Well, I'd like to think that I am an enabler in terms of the organization. I'm not, I guess we set parameters and we bring, and people come in, and we're very clear about what our mission and our vision is. And we expect people to come in and support that process and help us to move forward with that. I think, it was kind of never my ambition really to be an artistic director or a CEO of an organization, because after my training, I just wanted to dance and teach. But obviously there was a huge lack of resources for anybody who wanted to use their cultural heritage in terms of wanting to dance about African Caribbean, my Caribbean culture. And it was really difficult to find a platform for that. So in a way, I was very lucky to be linked with the organization that I was after I left training. And actually they gave me the ability to to sort of develop in a way that was fitting for me, for my growth and development creatively and culturally.
Okay. Well, that's something interesting, and just giving us a little bit of how you got into the dance. But maybe share a key moment, or maybe some of the key moments that stand out for you then and now where you are.
Right. Okay. Well, a key moment, I think for me, was really back in 1985 when I started the company. That I was, again, as I said, I was working in a creative setting. And so I was very lucky in that I had all of those resources available to me. I was working in a theatre space. We had costume designers, lighting designers. We had people who were professionals in the creative industry. So I had all of that support when we kind of decided we wanted to develop a performance company. And so it was, so it was actually quite easy to kind of go along that process. I actually forgotten what your question is, Murphy.
No, it's just sharing a few moments. Don't worry. It's just
Oh yes,
sharing a
yes,
few
key
moments in
moments,
that, but
key
it's
moments.
also good
So
to
yeah,
hear that.
so
Because
forming the
what
company.
before you even kind of say a moment, a key moment that stands out for you, I'm just thinking in terms of when you said that you had a lot of resources. Of course, it's not an easy route now. Not many resources are available, and we're kind of like this, you know, how were those resources? Was it funding? Was it people supporting and just being flexible with their money? Or, you know, what do you mean by that in terms of having
Okay.
lots of
Well,
resources?
I was actually working in a theatre. So, I mean, I don't know, many of you might have heard of the Albany in Deptford.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
my job there was as a dance animator. Some of you might remember that term from 100 years ago. And so that was my job there. So as I said, I was in an environment where those things were readily available. So, so it meant that developing IRIE as a performance company, we actually were in a space that could sort of harness the work creatively and production-wise. In terms of the struggle of getting the work out there, getting the work seen, and actually having people understand what it is you're trying to do, that's kind of another issue. But just in terms of being an environment where people could advise you and talk to you about costumes, about set design, about when you create a piece, how you light it. So being in that environment in terms of production, I think we gained a lot from that process.
Okay, so actually that could happen as well present day, like if somebody is in an environment which is quite conducive, like which could happen, then they can actually set up something. You don't have to wait for funding. You can barter in terms of, you know, kind of trying to get resources to set yourself up.
But as you said before, that I mean that was in the 80s, Mercy, and things have changed so much.
Yes.
Just in terms of funding for those sorts of spaces. I mean, it's, you know, I think an artist would be really hard pushed right now to be able to kind of land themselves. There would have to be a very special project or a special commission or something. But I think that an artist would be really hard pushed to end up in that kind of environment these days.
Oh well, anyway, we, you know, the struggles continue, but we have to continue doing the work. And so glad that you really managed to persevere and carry on. And here we are since 1985. You are celebrating how many? 25 years? 26 years?
30,
Oh goodness, 30
yes,
years. Yes.
30 odd,
Oh my,
34,
30 odd
35,
years.
something like that.
Wow. That's amazing. So, you know, it pays, patience pays, and perseverance as well. So now I'd like to, you know, kind of like, you did say the key moments. You'd started saying that it was setting up the company.
That was definitely a key moment.
A key moment.
I think other key moments was we in early 90s we did it's kind of interesting actually with regenerations, because back in then I think, and for me was actually at that conference, the conference was called Ancient Futures. And for the first time, we were able to host an international platform where we had a guest from the States, Forces of Nature, and from the Caribbean, Jamaica, L'Antoinette Steins, and IRIE. And we held, I think it was a 2-week residency where there were lots of discussions around Black dance and who was doing it and why we were doing it and what all the issues were. And we covered a kind of a plethora of things that was necessary to kind of to build the profile of the form. Unfortunately, we're still discussing a lot of those things now. But
we mustn't stop
yes,
talking. We mustn't stop talking, and that's
no,
what I keep
absolutely
saying.
not. Absolutely
Something's got to
not.
give at one point. Yeah.
Yes, yes. But that was another key moment, because that was just kind of fantastic for us. And I always sort of see that as our kind of initial it was very regenerations orientated.
That's pre-region. Wow.
I guess other moments was traveling, taking the company, the performance company, doing international touring internationally. Oh God, there's so much.
Loads,
Yes,
loads.
there
Yeah.
are lots.
Yes, I can see here. Fumi is saying Ancient Features was an amazing conference in 1996. I think
Wow. Yes.
great workshops and performances foreshadowed regenerations.
Yeah.
So, you know, the beginnings of that. So we do need things like that, because it's food for thought, and it's really a gathering that really, we need those gatherings. We need those spaces. So
Well, I think
do
that
you have any
definitely archive from Regenerations.
Ancient Futures?
From Ancient Futures. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I'm happy to send some of that through to you, Mercy.
Yes, it would be great to share
Yes.
it with others, and you know, just to see how things were then and now. It'd be really lovely to know. So okay, now you've changed your strapline for the organization, and it's saying creating dancers for the global community, something
That's
like that.
not for the organization. It's actually it's a new strapline for our BA honors.
Oh, it's a new strapline for the
It's a
BA
new
honors.
strapline, yeah, specifically for the BA honors.
Okay, well, can you talk to us about that and how it came about and why you think it is important? And we will talk about the BA again at some, you know, kind of soon. But just that strapline, because for me, when I read that, I see international in there. I see international connections, and it's really by nature of the diasporas we are international anyway, and
Yeah.
obviously with Karma Arts we work internationally, so we really want and to kind of converse internationally and do things internationally. So can you talk to us a little bit
Well, yeah,
about?
well, actually, I mean, it's exactly that, Mercy. It's exactly what you said. It's really about trying to make sure that the reach is not just UK wide, that actually we are much more interconnected than that. I think we just have to look at the whole situation with COVID and how that has kind of forced us in a way to make those connections. And also, I mean, it's a small world, and especially within the sector that we're working in. But also the industry itself is changing, and the industry is becoming much more diverse in terms of what they're looking for in an artist these days. So it just seemed fitting to kind of look at a mantra, if you like, that's about, you know, what is it, what are we hoping, what is the mission for people training, for people gaining a BA in diverse dance styles at the end of the day. And it was really about that, about, you know, making sure you create a dancer that was well-rounded and understood the different types of dance forms and dance style. And when I say understand, I don't simply mean just knowing how to do the steps, because I think kind of, you know, understanding the context and the history behind those things opens up a whole other conversation about how you begin to begin to know people and respect their culture and their dances too.
Okay, well, that's a really good thing for all those who are working with students or your kind of dancers yourselves, just to know how, you know, what's quite important. That's one of the principles and one of those nuggets that you have to take away when you're kind of studying or creating or even teaching, I think, you know, passing on the legacy. So that's a really interesting one. So in terms of the, maybe if you can talk to us a little bit about the degree course and how it came about, just a few, you know, kind of just brush strokes of how.
We'd be here for days, Mercy, because actually, when I think about it, this has been like 20 odd years in the making.
Wow.
And obviously how it came about, it had to do a lot with the work that myself and Rosie Lehan, who actually we both attended Laban together. When we left, we did lots of community projects together, and then she sort of went into education, and I kind of stayed with performance and dance and community engagement.
Yes.
But then when IRIE was formed and we started touring, one of the things that happened was we formed a partnership and did a residency. It was almost like an indefinite residency at City and Islington College. And
Okay.
because we were there, we were teaching, we were performing. A lot of the students that were on the performing arts courses and the ones specifically doing dance were really gaining an insight into different dance styles. So, and also kind of gaining an appreciation for dances that they might have thought was kind of just social and, you know, nobody would take it seriously. Was kind of understanding that there was an art form to it, and there was style and there was technique, and then it could be used in what they were studying. So they were doing their 2 or 3 years studies, and then they would leave and go off to university. And then we would have this interaction with them, because we would get comments like, well, we want to do our study, our final essay on, you know, on Beverley Glean or Jackie Guy. And the lecturers would be saying, well, who are these people? What's written about them? We don't know anything about them. So there was this real kind of disparity between sort of looking at culture and diversity in terms of a focus on African and Caribbean dance, and what these students were going on to. And so that became a recurring issue for us, which then led us into really kind of just doing some investigation into what the barriers was. Why was it such an issue for students not to be able to study culturally diverse dance forms in higher education?
Yes.
And the rest is history, really. So I mean, it took us several goes before we got to the BA, because initially what we did was we wrote a diploma, and that was accredited by Birkbeck College, University of London. And at its time, it was so groundbreaking that the Arts Council, who don't usually fund anything to do with education, actually felt that it was a real, it was a groundbreaking piece of work, and actually that it would have an impact on the creative industries. And so therefore they supported for 3 years that program to happen. While that was happening, we got to the end of that, and that gave us room to kind of really undertake a bit more research, because doing the diploma kind of really highlighted even more issues in education, and looking at, well, where were the proper accreditation for our dances? So then after that, we went to apply to Nesta, because we wanted to do some real kind of critical research in what the barriers were to African, or to engage in an African and Caribbean dance in education. And so we were funded by Nesta and the Arts Council again, actually, to undertake this research. We, which was A, looking at the barriers, B, we wanted to look at what was, and then we wanted to do some action research, which was if we fashioned a course where we were looking at young people engaging in the dance forms, and it was very much kind of set on what we're doing now. We're looking at ballet, at contemporary dance, at African dance, at Caribbean dance, and we looked at that. But we didn't only work with the young people, we wanted to work with their teachers, because there's, again, something fundamentally wrong in teacher training, because there's no access to kind of diverse training within that, not on any regular basis. They might get an odd course dropped in or session dropped in here and there, but there's nothing that really looks at the kind of communities that these teachers are coming into, and the sort of young people that they'll be working with. And so we undertook that, and of course a lot of that was shared across the Regenerations platforms, that research. And then in 2007, we were actually, the other part of it was looking at it internationally. We wanted to look at what was happening in the States, what was happening in the Caribbean, what was happening in Africa, and that people that were studying those forms, were they just doing it and then ending up, I don't know, in McDonald's or somewhere, and not being able to, but kind of what was the reality outside of the UK. And actually, when we came back, I think it was 2007, the government.
So when you came back, when you came back from, the research was done in the States?
When we came back from the international element of the research, the government then had set up a new partnership with creative industries, further education college, and higher education universities, which were kind of foundation degrees. And so Rosie and I was asked whether we, based on the research we'd done, would we write a foundation degree?
Right.
And that was, that was amazing for us, because it was almost like, we'd done all of this research, we'd just come back. We kind of had to write the second document, but in doing that, we were kind of using all of that knowledge and information that we found to fashion this course. And that was accredited by London Metropolitan University and franchised a city in Islington. And we ran the foundation degree for 10 years.
Yes.
Yes, and then out of that came the BA, and we did that because, again, the same kind of issues occurred when we were doing the foundation degree, and that's only 2 years. And so it meant that if a student wanted a full degree, they would have to go off to a university to do that. And again, the same barriers were being, what we were encountering with the students who were being told, well, you probably have to come into our second year, which means they'll have to do an additional year, because there was nothing to kind of support their learning and what they knew, if you like. It's just in terms of culturally diverse dance. So that in a way forced us really to write a third year and deliver the BA honours.
The BA honors. That's incredible, actually, because somebody, yeah, I've got Birinji here saying that's incredible. I'm sure everybody who's listening, it's such a journey, and you have been such a pillar in terms of actually enabling and making sure that we have a degree in dance of that nature. So good for you and good for us all. So that's a really great legacy that you've brought in for the sector. And
Thank you.
and I hope that people who are joining appreciate the journey that you've taken for them to even be able to sit in that classroom and do whatever they have to do. You know, this young generation, and you know, I kind of like when you're talking about the journey, I'm also thinking about where you sit, because I know that you're in between education and the professional dancing and stuff. So those two sectors, and I'd like to give some statistics as well. So according to One Dance UK, the dance workforce is some 40,000 people, and 17,000 of those are dancers and choreographers. So that was I think it was taken in 2019. And each year, there are 4,500 dance degrees. Where do all those people go? I'd like to know. So, yeah. So, and also because you do some of the community work as well, 4.8 million, that was in 2019, 4.8 million people participated in community dance, or they participate in community dance each year in England alone. So that's huge. Yeah. That's really huge. So I just want you to, you know, can you please talk a little bit about that, where your positioning is and where you're, because that, as an educator, you're an influencer in some way. And so the first thing I need to ask before you even talk about that, I just want you to think about, since you started, how many people have come through your doors and are now out there, out in the
gosh. That's a tricky one. That's a really tricky one. And because I've not done the maths, but certainly hundreds, possibly thousands, I would say. Yeah. We're talking about 35 years. Yes. So I think in terms of artists, when you kind of look at the thing as a whole, sort of musicians, dancers, choreographers, costume designers, you know, I would definitely say kind of thousands. Wow. I think that the interesting thing about the community education is because, I mean, nowadays it's I don't know how many training institution you can come out of nowadays and just go, I just want to be a dancer. I don't think that career is possible anymore. I think you just have to be so many things, and actually community engagement, teaching is a kind of a huge part of that makeup. So in terms of community, I mean, I know on average, IRIE reaches on average around 4,000 individuals a year in terms of its community. Some years it's a little bit more, some years it could be less. Strangely enough, COVID has actually really upped our engagement, simply because everything had to go online, and then you found that there were people engaging with you online who wouldn't ordinarily engage with you in person because of distance and all of that kind of stuff. So that was a really interesting look for us. But just looking at where we sit in terms of education and performance. I mean, this is the thing about really being, because you know, we do big things, but we're still quite a small organization. and so in order to kind of really put your energies behind something that you know is absolutely necessary, and it's going to help to really build a profile of the sector. So it's we couldn't run a manage a performance company and run the accredited qualifications. So we kind of had to weigh up what was the critical thing at that time. I mean, I think, and so therefore, you know, we kind of put the performance company to bed and really focused on the accredited qualifications. Obviously now, this is something that we're really gonna have to revisit, because what's happening now is that we're producing these dancers,
yes,
that are kind of trained in fusion, but and although we understand that the industry is changing and all the rest of it, but it means that what are they seeing? What creatively, artistically, performance-wise, there's really very little for them to see. So, you know, it's that whole issue about, like, you know, you can sort of be in what you see, you know, you can. So we kind of need to be able to revisit the performance company, so that we are giving those students, you know, something
a progression route of some sort, because I think, yes, there's education, but if you don't know where you're going to go to, and I think we do have that in the UK. It's not it's, you know, in the US it's a little different, because there's many companies, there's, you know, there's also the mass, you know, there's a lot of people, Black people, and so there's companies and there's professional, you know, kind of professionals doing that. So it's a little easy for the students to know where to go. But here in the UK, when you train, it's very difficult to go into, you know, to find organizations. Yes, there are a few, but of course, it would be really interesting to kind of, because I remember connecting Vibes and some of the performances that they did. That was the student part of
that was the student company. That was one of the things, again, while we were at City and Islington as well, it was really important that that those students who were coming out of those courses had a sense of what, if they wanted to go into performance, had a sense of what it was like to be part of a performance company.
Yes, yeah. No, it's really, really interesting. And so what do you have to I know that, you know, at some point something will come up, but what will it take to have that kind of thing around? Is it more international connection, more you know, some of the students who you've trained to kind of form something, you know, what is it?
Performance company. Oh yeah, I mean, we're actively on that at the moment. And I think as well, because, you know, the other thing with Black dance companies was that, especially if you were kind of working with that fusion, was that there was never anybody that was trained in the style to be able to kind of resource your company effectively.
Right.
So for us back in the day, you know, like, you know, IRIE, Kakuma, those companies back in the day, when people came to audition, they were chosen because you kind of felt that they sort of had a little undulation going on, or could do some nice pulsations, because there was just nowhere for them to train. So we are I wanted, the word hoping is in my head, but it's not the word I want to say, because the thing is that, you know, we are training up those dancers. They are beginning to be out there. And I think that, you know, it doesn't kind of, you look at training up for a certain thing, it doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes a while for the numbers to come out and get themselves strategically placed in whatever organization, or whether they are, and even if they're not even going to be dancers, because we're not just about dancers, because we're looking for educated audiences as well.
Yes.
So I think that so yeah, so we know that we're beginning to develop a pool of dancers so that when the company is able to start, that the audition process is, you know, it's just going to be based on real skills and real understanding of the form, and kind of not just us kind of going, well, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, you have two things here, the professional company and the education side of things, and all eyes are on you because you've done it. You're the first to have done a degree course. And so do you feel the pressure behind you when you're doing all these things and new things coming up, maybe not coming up?
Yeah, no, I don't feel the pressure so much. I think because we're still very much in a bit of a unique position, because there doesn't seem to be much else coming up, and they may well be, I don't know, because, you know, I'm just kind of focused on what we're doing and kind of trying to keep my eye on, you know, what else is out there as well, so that there are pointers for our students when they finish in places they can go to. So, and I know that there are other universities, for example, there's East London, that they do the is it the hip hop? Yeah, so that's
the
kind of
urban dance degree. Yeah.
Right. So yes, urban dance degree. So that's happening there, and I believe that there may be some other universities that are beginning to lean towards more culturally diverse training, but it's very, very slow. And I think, and you know, what I would really like is for our sector to get behind us a little bit more in terms of you know, kind of sort of making sure that that we have the students on board, so that we'd be able to skill up the young people with that diverse training. But I know, but I know that there are other, I think from youth dance now, I believe that young people, because there's all of the work that Kamara's doing with the youth dance there, and they seem to be getting a very diverse training in terms of the work that they're doing. And again, it's about what's the route, you know, from there, what's the next route in terms of their qualifications,
their career
and
development,
even their employment, their career.
Career development, because of course there's, you know, it's important to have industry as well as education, and industry and academia coming together. So just to give you a pause, I just wanted to let people know, thank you so much for coming on. A few people have joined, and a few more people have carried on because we were on Instagram and then we had to move on to Zoom. So thanks for the technical team to do that. But we are actually having a really rich conversation. Please feel free to send any questions in the chat room so that we can get, you know, Beverley is here and she's always busy, so to grab her is you know, is really a gem to have had her. It's an honor to have her here. So ask any questions that you want to ask, and she will endeavor to respond to that. But we will just continue having the conversation. Usually, you know, we had scheduled it for an hour, but of course, you know, we started a little bit late, maybe at 12:30, so we'll probably aim to finish in about 20 minutes in terms of that. But there's so much to talk about. It's so much to talk about, because I know that I've been working with you for about over a decade now, since I joined ADAD, and so then we went into One Dance UK, and you mentioned regenerations, of course, and you mentioned the ancient futures that you started with, which was a kind of like precursor to regenerations for those who were not around. So where do you think, I just want to kind of bring in that international connection. Obviously, when you speak about regenerations, and also the ancient futures was all about international. Where do you think we need to be now? Because as you know, statistically, we are like 1.4 billion people on the continent, and then across the diaspora, we're about 300 million. that's including the Caribbean and, people in the different diasporas. Where should we really be now, and where should we be heading? And I'm saying this because we're thinking education-wise, a lot of people are now talking about the curriculum, decolonizing the curriculum. They're talking about how do we stand up for ourselves and start doing these kind of courses internationally. Where should we be? Where should we be positioning ourselves as a diaspora? Because I know when I speak with people on the continent, for instance, and in the Caribbean, they're also talking about how they can move connected and well connected with us, with the diasporas in the various ways.
I mean, I think definitely connectivity is absolutely the key. I think that's why I believe things like regenerations is so important, because that's a platform where people are able to engage and you get kind of connected with people ordinarily you wouldn't be able to. I think that it's really important that our artists in the UK start to think globally. I mean, one of the interesting things for us is that, the amount of EU students that we kind of had on our course, have come through our course, but it's those students, their thinking is so different from how the because already they think on a very global perspective, and it doesn't, and they will, and I know it's kind of be difficult for them, but they will go where the work is. Do you know what I mean? Or take or even kind of take themselves to where the bit of the training is that they think that they need to kind of skill up in order to help them to progress. So I do think that there's actually through the internet, through social media, we have such a wide platform now in terms of how we can engage. But also I think that we have to be more open creatively as well, so that it's not just about the dance. It's kind of really just looking at how dancers engage with artists, how they engage with social media, with the media, how they're engaged with designers. Do you know what I mean? So that you become as rounded as possible.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe using even the form, the medium of dance as the vessel to do or the tool that leads you to whatever you want
much
to do.
the same way that you have to do, like when you take on community work, for example. You use the dance, that training is the vehicle, but you're using that and especially in the UK to support a lot of government agendas. So you are kind of using your dance, and you might want to, there's a whole issue around health and well-being and obesity and all of those things. So it's kind of just finding ways, new ways that you and also just in terms of a career pathway, in terms of how you kind of develop as an artist and individual, how different ways you can use your training.
Well, that's good. Well, one would argue though, if you're using it as a vessel and you're encouraging people to use dance in a different way, almost the professional dance, kind of carrying on the professional work, like as a professional dancer, that suffers a little bit because there wouldn't be as many professional dancers as possible. But one would argue to say that now the institutions are set up to train professional dancers and not so much the thinking dancer that's supposed to be navigating the space that we have now. So where do we go from there?
Well, I think, I suppose as well, it depends on where the focus is for that individual, because if you know that that is where you know, community work, or that's kind of not your leaning, or certainly it's not something you want to be doing full time,
Yes.
then your focus would definitely need to be on you know, developing your training, making sure that you stay fit for purpose, and you know, you continue to audition and go towards the pathway that's about enabling you to be situated in a performance company.
Yes.
But I think that, but the, you know, dance portfolios now is very varied. It's, you know, and I think I just think that I just feel that there aren't enough performance companies out there, so that people kind of have that that route straight into a dance company anymore. You either have to develop or create work yourself, or you know, you're engaged by other people that's creating work.
So I almost hear you saying that, you know, as we continue to train the students, the role of the teacher is now changing as well, so that the people you train, you have to train them in other softer skills and other maybe skills like entrepreneurial skills.
Yeah,
That they
I mean,
have
I
to go.
don't know if it's like because kind of within an institution, you have certain teachers or lecturers or whatever who kind of fulfill certain things. I think it's, you kind of really have to look at the where the industry is going, because ultimately you want your students to once they graduate, you want them to be able to find meaningful pathways. So so it would just be a bit bonkers training, you know, people up for, I don't know, classical dance, if you like, if there's no ballet company for them to go to. So it's really just kind of looking at what does the industry look like, but also in the training you have to you kind of have to allow your adults to understand what it's really like out there, so that you're not giving a false sense of security, because again, that can be quite problematic.
Well, that's given us a really good feel of where things are, and also just thinking, who knows what the future is gonna be like anyway.
Exactly.
Because there's so much going on, there's so much online going on. So am I right to think that you're now working digitally and trying to shift the way that you're training up in terms of being more digital? Because at the moment, I hear that, well, that was in 2019, there was about 550 million people log on to Instagram every day. And that was in 2019. So imagine now when we are in lockdown and people are just using the digital. That's more. So how as a trainer and as an institution are you thinking about that?
Well, I think that it's going to be very difficult now, sort of after COVID, to go back to just the way we were delivering before. I think that we actually now have to embrace the digital.
The digital world, yes.
Yes, and possibly look at ways that both things can kind of coexist. I know that for us and our students, it was very, very difficult for them. I think online classes, you know, just didn't work at all. But obviously, you know, we were delivering because we needed to, but we couldn't wait to get them back in the studios, and they themselves couldn't wait to be back, because it was a really, really difficult time. And I just think there's just nothing better than being in a sweaty studio with drummers and dancers. You know, it's just, and it all kind of goes not just to your education, but to your well-being as well.
Yes, yes.
And so, and so while I understand and get fully that the digital is here now and we have to embrace it in lots of ways, you know, kind of, there's just no substitute for
For the
just
life,
being in a
the
classroom.
life thing.
And it doesn't matter whether you exactly whether you're doing practical or theory, that, you know,
Yes.
just to be in the space, touching real books, being amongst real people, it's
Yes.
yeah, there's no substitute.
Well, we'll still, you know, we'll see how that unfolds, and maybe there might be other ways of being virtual.
Yeah, I mean, I do
in a
think
live
one of
way.
yeah, I mean, one of the I think amazing things, and it's something that we kind of want to kind of explore going forward, is to just be able to sort of engage internationally. I mean, because
that's
you
been a
know,
bonus,
now,
actually.
yeah, you know, now we could have a workshop with Lantoinette Steins in Jamaica in our classroom.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I do think that there are things there that are definitely worth kind of hanging on to, and also the fact that it's allowing you that immediate access now in a way that, you know, we wouldn't have had before. But you know, there are some positives.
Yes, yeah.
But I would still
Well,
rather her in the studio in London.
well, that nicely brings me on to just saying we're kind of like, we have a few minutes anyway, and I'm encouraging people to put any questions on in the chat, please, so that we can ask Beverley some of them. So it's been interesting to hear from you and kind of going through that. And so we are delving into some of the challenges that you probably are facing running an institution as a woman in the UK and in this environment. Basically, we've had, you know, the kind of like more than a moment, the Black Lives Matter, we've had all the, you know, everything that comes in the pandemic and the COVID impact and everything. You work in the community, you have students, so you've had to readjust the space that you're providing as well. What are some of the challenges as a trainer, as somebody who's bringing this platform and this institution for others to learn? What are your challenges really, on a personal as well as, you know, professional, and, you know, any level, at any level?
I think that if what COVID has not been kind to us, that we know. I think that, but what I believe it has done, it's sort of opened up a space for lots of conversations to happen.
Yes.
I think much needed serious conversations about how we can move forward with serious change. Because what's kind of really apparent as well at the moment is that I find myself even now being called to certain tables to talk about, you know, decolonizing curriculums and so on and so forth.
What is that, by the way? Yeah.
Well, you know, we know what it is.
Yes.
But the fact is that our people are the powers that be willing to take the step to make the change. And so
it's a big shift.
Yeah, it is a huge, huge shift. And I do find myself still in this situation, having the same, a bit like Groundhog Day, just having the same conversations, you know, 30 odd years on. And I'm kind of hard pressed to kind of say, oh, this is what you have to do to make the change, because sometimes the door can shut as quickly as it opens. And I think as soon as people begin to feel uncomfortable or maybe slightly threatened by certain things, then, you know, the conversation stops. And I think for us, that's why it was important. It's taking its time, but for us to kind of do it ourselves.
So it's
Because
really
at
important for
least,
us to do it.
yes, at least you can see the progression. It is slow, but you can you can actually kind of plan and see what's happening.
Yes.
And you have control over it to a certain extent. So I mean, the challenges are always going to be there, and I think that the whole issue around culture and race and diversity, it's just going to be, you know, an ongoing thing, because I think what happens quite a lot is that we tend to kind of start in the middle of stuff where the damage is done already, and then we're kind of trying to fix it. And I think, I mean, it just feels like what has to happen now is that we have to really grasp the opportunity to start from where we know it's true for us, and kind of move on from there, because otherwise we'll just keep revisiting and
nothing's
and
achieved.
nothing really. Yeah. Now, I
Well,
don't know if that makes sense. I think I was babbling a bit there, but yeah.
No, I think it's fine. It's fine, because, you know, there's no right or wrong answer. So it's just thoughts, and we are kind of just having a discussion, a conversation, and reflecting and having thoughts on how we could actually move forward. So what's coming up next? What's the big thing for you? I know one or two things, but I'll let you say something.
Well, there's two big things really. Well, one is the performance company, because I think we're in a place now, because our kind of student community is kind of really beginning to grow and develop, and you know, and just from them as developing dancers, you know, you kind of you want them to be able to progress somewhere. So but also for African and Caribbean dance fusion to be seen again in performance spaces. So there's that. But the other thing that we're looking to do as well is our building. Is that we really kind of want to look at a kind of refurbishment program for the space, so we can you know, have some more studios, we can kind of increase our librry, and a performance space, because we're still struggling as people in Black dance for a home. We're like orphans all over. We're still struggling to find spaces that we can we can call home. So we're you know, I mean, we're really fortunate to be because we have a fantastic relationship with our local authority, and they really value us as an organization in the borough. So we want to look at that, because it's an important building as well for Lewisham, for London, for England. And so we really want to develop that and try to continue the legacy of the founder, and just make it a space that we're just all proud to call a space of Black dance, diversity.
Well, I know you've mentioned the founder and the you know, kind of the story. So if people want to read about the history of IRIE and how it started and the founders, you can go on Instagram, because from the Instagram takeover this week, it was really outlined very well in terms of, you know, how it started and where you are and, you know, what you're aiming for. So any last words, basically, because how do people find you? Where do you know, what's the best way that people need to connect? Or are you registering for students now, or, you know?
Yes, we are. We're registered. So really, it's just on the website. go to iriedancetheatre.org, and there's all the information there, or just give us a call. We like to speak to people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give us a call. Yeah, and obviously our social media, the Twitter and Instagram. And
Yes.
I'm talking like I know, but I'm just so rubbish, as I demonstrated earlier.
As long as you have somebody around and that's
but
easy,
yeah,
that would
you
be
can
great
kind
to
of
do
engage
that.
with us through all
Yeah.
those mediums.
Yes, yeah. So any last words for anybody who wants to kind of take this career and kind of like follow you, because you're an inspirational lady, very powerful. And I think sometimes we don't really recognize and realize the gems that we have in the community. So I'm just saying that, you've done such a grand work, a great work. And so what are the last, what advice would you give somebody who wants to do something like what you're doing?
Well, I just think, just once you have your vision, your mission, just go with it. I think because you will come across like real frustrations. You'll come across with people that don't really kind of wish you well. You'll come across institutions that don't even see you. But that again is it's a part of the process. It shouldn't be, but unfortunately it is.
Yes.
And just surround yourself also with good people, with people that that will have got your back, and that they are really willing to move forward with you. And just don't take stuff too seriously, because most of the
Remember
time
to
it's
have
nothing to
fun.
do with you. Yeah, most of the time it's nothing to do with you, is what stuff is going on out there. So you
Yes.
just stay focused, just continue going forward. As long as you know what your purpose is, as long as you know what you're going for,
Yeah.
then just keep going. And I'm happy to offer to have even if it's just a phone call, or come
Yes.
to IRIE and have a cup of tea.
Yes, yeah, would love that,
You
because I
know,
think one of the things that I think is missing in kind of like engaging with those institutions, engaging with where the work is happening or the making of the work. So we see all these big institutions and everything, but not many people enter those places. So the connectivity between community, and I suppose these are some of the things that conferences like Regenerations bring: academia and practice.
yeah.
And then there's other, loads more others. I'm just mentioning ones which I know. But I suppose there's that the link, because we're all humans and we are kind of creatures of wanting to connect and being together and all of that, but also inviting. So it would be nice to have an invitation and kind of like, open days for IRIE
Okay.
to invite
Just
us and to
everybody
kind
come
of,
for tea.
yeah, come for tea, listen to some drumming, listen to,
Yes.
get into some song and dance and, all of that. So that would be wonderful.
Okay,
I
well,
know
let's
it's
do it.
expensive. And then COVID as well, obviously, has restricted us,
Yeah.
obviously. I can
Well,
hear people
fingers
saying,
crossed we'll
oh,
be out of that hopefully in a few months.
in a few months. I've got Kamara here saying, yes, please, I love tea. So yeah,
Okay.
that would be wonderful. But seriously, I think there's something that's missing in terms of connecting communities and that humanness, that kind of inviting people in your space, and also going to other people's spaces, because I know there's a lot of people who do the work, they forget to go to other people's work
Yes.
and
Yeah.
spaces.
But sometimes though, that's not even because they don't want to, but it's because we are so pushed. We are so pushed and we're so stretched that quite
Everybody's, yeah.
often you just don't have the time.
Yeah, but I suppose we need to
But
change that. Oh, I've got somebody else there for me. Yeah, I'm up for tea too. So, you know, make sure you have enough cups for us. So
okay, we'll do it. We'll just have a Dance of the Diaspora Tea
Yes,
afternoon. Let's
afternoon.
make it happen, Mercy.
Let's make it happen. And I know
Yeah.
that we didn't talk about the London Borough of Culture. You won the
Oh
bid,
yes.
and there's
Yes, we
something
did.
big that's happening as well. So just mention it a little bit because we're running out of time.
Okay.
So
Well,
just
obviously, we won the bid for London Borough of Culture. It is, quite amazing. We're in the process now of kind of, we have like 5 major themes, and obviously it's all to do with the borough, and it's activism, and we're looking at climate change and all of those sorts of things. But what we're doing in terms of dance, we're doing as a program. It's called From Quadrille to Hip Hop. Where
oh,
we're looking at the whole the issue just in terms of migration in Lewisham as well, and from quadrille to hip hop and everything in between. So we just really want to kind of just look at celebrating that lineage of dance and kind of diversity within our borough. So that's very, very exciting, and you guys will
yes.
sort of hear all about that in the near future.
Yes. Well, I've got for me saying thank you for sharing your experiences. The dance profession has indeed changed. Good to begin collecting on what that means in terms of what we should teach students and even educate ourselves. Indeed, it is a global job. And then Yasmin here says it's always a pleasure to hear from Beverley. A reminder that we stand on the shoulders of of giants. Thank you for organizing this talk team, Kalma Arts. Thank you, Yasmin.
Oh, thank you,
It's been
Yasmin.
such a pleasure, and I'm so glad that we finally managed to actually come on and speak with you. I know what's coming up next. We are gonna have next month. It's not next month, but in July we have congratulations on the Bar of Culture. That's also something happening. Thank you so much for your insights. Lovely to hear from you both. That's Sarah. I think it's Sarah dos Santos. Okay, that's lovely to see you. And so next, what we have is we have David Blake, who's also going to be on hopefully we'll have Instagram live again. If not, then we'll kind of have the alternative of Zoom. So we'll kind of make sure that we manage that so that we have an Insta and a Zoom Zoom thing handy, just in case. And then in July, actually Beverley and David Blake are going to come together on what we call a KBE. That's a brief encounter. It's on Zoom, and we'll have a provocation around the education system and some of the things that they grapple with, and we'll invite you all and come to join in and have a conversation to bring loads more kind of things, ideas, and sharing, and kind of just giving more pointers and speak some more. But thank you so much, Beverley.
Thank
It's been a
you for having
pleasure.
me. And
It's
again,
been a
apologies
pleasure.
everybody for
No, you
being
don't have to
late.
apologize. We've had you, and we are very happy that you have taken your time out on a weekend to come and speak with us. Thank you so much for all of you who have come in and followed
Yes,
from
thanks. And it's great
Instagram
to
to
see
Zoom.
everybody.
And I hope to see you sometime soon. Thank you very much. And
Okay.
goodbye. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Take care. Bye.